Josh, just any injury update you can give on Nico, and can you say whether or not it's season-ending?
You're going to get right to the point, huh?
Yeah. The playoff committee will want to know.
Yeah. We anticipate having him ready for next week. So, precautionary measure at halftime, and so feel like we'll be ready to roll next Saturday.
Since 2003, this is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
The Sports Source is presented by Junk Be Gone, Pipe Wrench, and the Garza Law Firm.
The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Junk Be Gone studios for today's episode of The Sports Source. We appreciate you being with us. There you heard Josh Heupel say it. Nico Iamaleava, it was a precautionary measure. He's going to be fine. Is he? We'll discuss that. There were some interesting videos that emerged of him leaving the stadium with a towel over his head, which sounds a bit like a concussion. But we'll discuss all of that. The Nico situation, the other banged-up guys you had yesterday. Dylan Samson continuing to carry this team on his back. Georgia up next. Yesterday, we told you last week, everything went Tennessee's way in the playoff chase. That was a week ago. This week, everything didn't go Tennessee's way in the playoff chase. We've got a ton of stuff to cover. Let's get into it. First segment of our program brought to you by our friends at Junk Be Gone. They got a couple of specials going on right now. Get a 15-yard driveway dumpster. That's what I do. You can get one for up to 4 days for just $299. $299. Also, if you need some small demolition work done right now, they'll take $100 off any demolition job that you order in November or December. JunkBeGone.biz to learn more. Fine company, fine people. Junk Be Gone. All right. First wave of our guests today, we have right over here Jimmy Himes, VFL Mike Stoll back with us, the Van Buren Awards. VFL Will Overstreet right here, Bob Hodge right there. All right. Vols take care of Mississippi State 33-14. They are now 8-1 on the season. They're atop the SEC standings, and a trip to Georgia awaits. The offense was the offense. It's still inconsistent. The defense, well, the pass defense looks great. Bingo, yeah, it was the same things. Pass defense looks good. Run defense has question marks. We'll start talking about that a little bit. But, Will, I want to start with you, and I'm guessing top takeaway, it's probably with that soundbite we started
Yeah,
with.
don't have to question that reporter. Where the topic is for most Tennessee fans or for everybody coming out of that game was, why was Nico not back on the sidelines? What does that mean? How long does that mean? Just a lot of questions, just because the play that, that I think not correctly referenced on ESPN, but a lot of people have pointed out when he got hit throwing a pass at the end of the game, coming off, a couple of things you saw were kind of him holding his arm as he came off, the shoulder he landed on, kind of shaking it. It didn't look comfortable. But then at the end, like you said, you saw a video at the end of him coming off the field with a towel over his head. So a couple of things there that you kind of go, they said it's an upper body thing. So
your head's upper body,
shoulder up, belly button up. I don't know which one that is, but I just think that's the real big question coming out of this is just where are you with him? I mean, because listen, this plays into a lot of things because not just in the Georgia game, but remember what happened to Florida State last year, right? They got left out because their quarterback wasn't, and the committee said, well, that's a different team. So this is an entirely different curveball that goes into a lot of things and not just the next game.
Tennessee won't have to announce anything until Wednesday when they get their first injury report, and thank goodness the SEC now makes everybody do the injury reports. But Jimmy, Mike, your thoughts on, the towel over the head, that speaks to concussion. And before anybody sends me a note saying, you guys are just speculating. Yes, that's what a talk show is. That is correct. You're speculating, just like every fan out there today, just like every other show on the air. So let's do some speculating. The towel over the head, that kind of screams concussion, I thought.
Well, it does. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a concussion. Now, how quickly can he come back? There are degrees of concussions. Some are more serious than others. Some you can come back in 2 days, some you don't come back for 2 weeks or 2 months. So I don't know how bad it is. We'll see. We'll find out at some point. Maybe Wednesday there's an announcement. I expect it to be vague. about what might happen, but it would certainly diminish Tennessee's chances of beating Georgia. Now, the other takeaways I had was you lost your starting quarterback, your best running back fumbles in the red zone again, your defense get gashed by the running game, and you won.
Yeah.
So the topic last week, I think part of it was grinding out wins.
Can you continue to do this?
And that kind of was a grind out to me against
the
Mississippi.
worst team in the conference.
Right.
Though.
That's right.
It's going to be a different beast. Georgia's not great shakes right now, but I have a feeling, well, we'll talk about what the Ole Miss loss might mean for Georgia. Mike, Bob, top takeaways?
I'm looking out on the bright side of things. There's not a lot of tape of Gaston Moore out there. So, see, you can go down there and surprise them with some stuff. But, you know, my top takeaway about Nico is the question is, and I've heard you ask it, Jimmy, has he turned a corner or is he just getting incrementally better? Well, either one of them's good for Tennessee. I mean, and he has been playing better since, you know, first half of the Alabama game, I guess. He looks like he's been improving. And so I think the setback, if he doesn't play, is pretty huge. Even if Gaston Moore, you know, you don't know exactly what he would do in an entire game situation in a week of preparation, but the fact that he is, and we talked about it before the season, what you want to see Nico do this year wasn't win the Heisman. It would just get better as the season went on. And I think he's been doing that. Yeah. And I think that would make it very hard to go to Georgia.
Well, and kudos to Gaston Moore. He came in and did a nice job as the backup yesterday. But they didn't ask him to do a whole lot. The deep balls, he got a couple penalties that helped on a couple of those. But he doesn't have the tools to work with that Nico does. He is, however, a 48th-year senior who's followed Josh Heupel from UCF to here. So he deserves credit for what he did yesterday, but that is a big step off if you have to start him at Georgia.
Well, it's a different animal playing Georgia versus Mississippi State. Mississippi State is not very good. But I think the other thing you talk about, if it is a concussion, right, different guys respond from concussions different ways. You have some guys like, no problem. You have other guys that can linger on just because of the way that they're built, the way that they handle things. So when you get a possible concussion, you know, how does he respond from that? I think the other thing, too, though, is you can use this as your advantage as Tennessee, right? If he's close enough, but you hold him out and they play close to Georgia, he comes back in and wins. Oh, well, we're 2 losses. These teams have 2 losses, but we lost to Georgia without our starting quarterback. Oh, you start creating kind of a story
would they have
around
beaten Georgia if they'd had
Nico?
Nico?
So you know, if it's
gives
close,
you an excuse.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you kind of, you know, if he's not fully ready, maybe you hold him out and you hope that you stay close with Georgia, or maybe you pull off a victory. But then if he can come back and win out, I think you at least are enough in the discussion to maybe say, hey, here's the one off of why we lost.
The concern, and this is purely, Troy Aikman had it, now Tua has it. The concern is you have one, okay, is this going to lead to a second to this? Because some of these guys, it really starts to stack up. Others, they have a concussion, they're fine. I'm guessing you had a concussion at some point in your career?
Never did.
You never did?
Never. If I did, I didn't know about it. But
it was a different day and age.
They have a different definition now.
That's
Concussion.
Yeah, it was a different thing back then. Of course, when I get near a microwave, I tend to wet my pants and like forget who I am for 30 minutes. But other than that, I'm fine.
People ask you who you are, and you say, Tom Mislinski.
That's right.
Okay. Did you ever have a concussion, Will?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, had a few.
Okay, you had a few.
Yeah.
Did you? How hard was it to get over those things?
I didn't think it was too hard. I mean, they didn't do a whole lot of procedures at the time.
Yeah,
right?
they weren't checking you too tough.
It was like, are you sensitive to light anymore? Are you throwing up anymore? Okay, great. Go back out there.
He stopped wetting his pants. That's
right. That's right. So yeah, it is, but it's very different now. Obviously, they have a test now. They have some other things, and I think obviously the players also know now what is the risk of coming back too soon or getting another one. And so I think all of that plays into your decision. I think I'd have had a different decision probably at some points, knowing that it can lead to more and happen more often. So I think that's part of it as well.
Let's talk about the play. Oh, Bill,
I was just going to say,
Bill,
and I don't know the answer. Does college football have a concussion protocol like the NFL, where it is up to a doctor? It's not up to the coaches. It's not up to the players in the NFL. It's up to a doctor to say, yes, you can play. I'm
assuming every school has their own protocol and their own doctor.
Yeah.
I don't think so. He'll play.
Depends on how much that doctor's getting paid by the university.
Well, this is just a cynical segment, isn't it? Wow. If you want honest talk, you're getting it on this show. In terms of the play that he got hurt on, because I thought this was interesting. ESPN said, we've been told it was this play. And it was the one where he rolled to the left. And I didn't think that was it. It looked more, there were a couple of plays after that.
He's playing a drive.
Where he's rolling. That's right. Yeah, that was quite a bit after. He's running to his right, and he got hit. And that's where he got up and he almost grabbed a little bit toward his back here. And then he got up and he was arm was dragging a little bit. He was hanging it. But I still, on neither of those shots, and it depends, but I didn't see his head hit the turf. I didn't see a helmet to helmet. I mean, you can get a concussion in many different ways, but I didn't see a play that screamed concussion to me. So is there any chance this really is upper body thing?
Sore shoulder.
I mean, if we're all, I think if we're taking, if we're
lower
placing
back
bets, I think we're all going concussion.
Yeah, his lower back has been bothering him. You know, he came out one time during the series and he was holding his back several games ago, and you know,
He's getting hit a ton,
yeah, which the offensive line has done better. But I think you're hard to speculate. But if it is a concussion, who knows? If it is a shoulder, that's a whole different animal.
All right. Anybody else? Anything? Okay. All right. Very good. When we come back, best player on the field last night, worst decision in the game last night, biggest disappointment from that game last night. Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. Their history, 104 years, suggests old and stodgy. Boy, they are anything but old and stodgy. They have more cutting-edge building materials than any of the mega chains you're going to find around town, around the area. Nudura concrete forms, manufactured stone, exterior finishing systems. All these are energy efficient and cost efficient and sturdy as can be. Folks, if you have a do-it-yourself project, if you're building a new building, start with A.G. Hines Company. I'm telling you, people have been doing it for 104 years. aghines.com to learn more. All right, I want to welcome in Josh Ward right here, and I like the outfit, VFL Sterling Hinton right here.
John
Looks
B,
good,
what's
man.
Baby? Appreciate you.
All right, let's do let's put up the poll question and give you a chance at that. Some folks have, okay, some people have already been online and playing along. You see the QR code right there below the Hearthside Bank logo. Use your smartphone to play along with us, or go to sportsource.tv/polls, and you can play that way. But the question is, will Tennessee win at Georgia? And here are your options. Yes, UT is better. Yes, if Nico plays. Not after Georgia lost. Or no, Georgia is better. So a couple of positive, a couple of negative. Let us know what you think. Looks like right now, not after Georgia lost is the leader. So that Ole Miss loss is going to wake up the dogs. So go ahead. Tell us what you think and watch those little orange lines move on the screen. All right. With this whole season, I don't know if we've ever thrown out anybody but this one guy.
Yeah.
Best player on the field, Sterling Hinton.
Dylan Samson. I mean, the guy is actually stepping up to the task, man. I mean, and once again, I brought it up last week. His blitz pickup has just been incredible. I mean, it was one time he was on the opposite side of the quarterback, ran across after the ball was snapped to get a blitz and strong safety. And his blitz pickup has just been incredible. The way he's running the ball, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Career record yesterday with 149 yards. Yep. Let me put up some stats here and show this to folks. If we've got them, just the numbers he's piling up for the year. You see the number of carries there. He's already at 201 carries on the season through 9 games. He's at 1,129 yards, folks. That is just 335 yards shy of Travis Stevens' 2001 record. He's got 3 more regular season games to go. He has 20 touchdowns on the year, so he scored another one last night to add to his already single-season record for touchdowns. The only thing I don't like there, 27 carries, 26 carries, 27 carries, 30 carries. They're leaning on him more and more. When I say that, it is not a knock on him. I just wish they weren't putting that much on him. You saw him get rolled up last night. I think everybody was scared to death because he is your offense right now. It would be really nice if they felt that they could put Peyton Lewis in more, that they felt Cam Seldon could get on the field anytime but garbage time. Yep. That would be a big help to this team, I think, if you weren't having to run him 30 times a game. Any other honorable mentions we want to throw out here, or anything you guys want to say about Dylan Samson while we're still talking best player?
I would like to see Dylan Samson score 2 or 3 touchdowns next week against Georgia and when he's in the end zone, do the Heisman pose.
Yes.
Because then that would be his own Heisman campaign.
Yeah, that's our
Yes.
next segment. So
Sorry
let's hold
about
off
that.
on that one.
But anyway, I mean, he has been so good. I think, why don't we next week go, okay, who was the second best player on the field?
Yeah.
And just go ahead and engrave him into that one.
Yes, sir.
Any thoughts on Samson or any other honorable mentions that deserve? We'll throw out some names here.
Yeah, the only thing about Samson and all the carries, because I have the same thought as you, it's like, man, they have to give him the ball 30 times against Mississippi State. He might not be human. I mean, to come back from getting rolled up, and it looks like, okay, they might not have him the rest of the game. He's going to carry the offense for a lot of the second half coming back. I don't know that he's the first or second best player, but I think Dante Thornton has become their most reliable. We need to hit a big play in the passing game threat, and he's that guy. He had another big play down the field last night.
And another guy that left the game with an injury.
Right.
So that's a concern as well. Max Gilbert, we said last week he got to get his confidence going. Boy, he shook it off. He was 4 for 4 yesterday and hit his first kick from over 50 yards on the year. Good for that kid.
Yep.
I mentioned Gaston Moore earlier. Peyton Lewis did a nice job filling in for Deshaun Bishop yesterday. Boo Carter made a lot of plays last night.
Looks like you might have a premium punt returner in Boot Carter.
Yes, sir. His confidence through the roof. That one that he jumped and picked down. I mean, that made people nervous. But I like, because I'd rather coach a dog back, than put the dog in him, coach him up. I like that Boot Carter, brother.
Yeah, he can make a play on the ball. He can make plays in open field space on defense. And with the ball in his hands, fans have wanted to see it. Now fans are going to start asking for some packages on offense. Maybe he's the answer to get a few carries away from Dylan.
That's actually good if you take a couple away from him. Worst decision in last night's game. Mine's obvious. Go ahead. Probably the same thing.
You get a ball deep in the red zone after a turnover, and you're 4 times running it, I thought was terrible. Because you don't have an offensive line that is just going to blow people off, and you know you're going to get 8 yards and 4 carries. I thought you needed to do a little variation right there. I didn't understand why 4 runs and very little variation in what you did to run the football. I thought that's a bad decision.
Any other worst decisions?
Yeah, I was going to actually go with the lack of variation. Wondering, is it in hindsight? But the results, I think, kind of speak for it as well.
I was going to say, put it on Jeff Lebby. You get to the end of the half, you get the ball back, you throw twice, your player runs out of bounds. You're just giving Tennessee points. Just get to the half. What are you doing? He wound up giving Tennessee 3 points. Didn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but I just thought, that's not a smart play. For a guy
some momentum going in at halftime.
For a guy who knows the veer and shoot system, I'm like, you should know better than to do this. Biggest disappointment last night. I mean, obviously, I think injuries are going to be up there with Nico, whatever that is. Dante Thornton, whatever that is. Then you wonder how Dylan Sampson's leg is feeling today now that the adrenaline's run off. But injuries and disappointment. Any other disappointments?
I mean, just run defense. I mean, I think you go out there expecting they're not going to run. Yeah. How good are we going to be against the pass? And last night it was a totally different story. To the point when Mississippi State had to score late to try to get back in the game, they still ran.
Yeah, they ran the ball.
And that's how their running game was producing.
Yeah, Mississippi State found something. They ran a nice trap with the guard combo in the center, gashing us up the middle. We clogged it up enough, but still they had great success. Like Bob said, they leaned on that when they had to score. When those people were throwing the ball down the field.
Makes me wonder if Georgia was watching that. Okay.
Well, everyone's watching. That's
everybody,
for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. If you show a
watching.
weakness, I mean, this is too. Well, we'll get into the run defense a little bit later. When we come back, let's talk about the offense. Let's talk about Josh Heupel. There's a play call pattern that starting to annoy Bob. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Heisman campaigns. Why in the heck is no one promoting Dylan Sampson? We'll discuss. Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Uncle Jim's River Cove Campground. You can find them at rivercovecampground.com. It's a new campground, only been open for about a month now. So if you're somebody that likes to camp in the fall, here's you a place that might have some openings. Everybody else booked up. Well, the new guy may have some openings. And boy, is it fantastic. Right on the little Pigeon River, they've got charcoal grills, picnic tables, fire pits, a dog park, golf carts, stocked camp store, coin laundry facility, just on and on. It's terrific for RV camping. It's terrific for you just camping, period. rivercovecampground.com, and only 10 minutes from every major attraction up there in the Smokies. So get up there. rivercovecampground.com. All right, since we have touched on Samson already, we'll start with another point and then circle back to Tennessee star running back. Bob, when Tennessee hired Josh Heupel, I did as much research as possible on the UCF stuff to find out what you could do. Everybody did. But one of the things I stumbled across was a message board where these UCF fans had gathered, and they said, well, at least we won't have to sit there and watch the first down pass, second down draw anymore. Okay, 4 years in, that's starting to bother you.
It is driving me absolutely crazy because you can, if you watch, no matter how fast they're going, the defense will actually now start walking up linebackers on second down. And it is just years and years and years ago, me being a Vikings fan, we used to sit there and they're going to run on second, they're going to run on second. Well, then after the season was over, the Vikings had done their self-scouting, and one of the things the coach came out and said, we run too much on second down. If I can see that setting in Powell, they should have seen it there. If I can see this setting up in X1 at Neyland Stadium, the coaches should have a little bit of a grasp for it. But it is, I will bet you, if you went back and tracked it, over 90% of second down is a run. And it is a very similar run to what they always do.
Well, again, and when you find a message board where fans at UCF, after his 3 years there, were laying out what we're now seeing, what we've seen over 4 years here, it's like, okay, this isn't just fan griping. This is a thing. It's throw on first down, run/draw on second down, depending on what happens on the first down.
Because I keep waiting. They've now spent 3 years setting up the play action on second down.
Thoughts on here's the other side of that, though, is their offense works.
Yeah.
So is it a concern?
So the first series, actually, Samson ran a few times and got the first down, and then they set it up and Squirrel White got the touchdown pass. I think, situationally, when they run the ball, and you look at that, they came out and ran the ball the first couple times. Samson got 9 yards and got a first down, and okay, we can run on Mississippi State. Let's start opening things up. And that's when I think you saw Nico start throwing some deeper balls. Yeah. But I do agree it's predictable. But again, I think a lot of it is predicated on, okay, is there 5 in the box? You run the ball. Is there 6 in the box? You pass the ball. And so I think
people load up on first down.
And I think that's where they're starting to figure that. But they're starting to figure out, like you said, they'll start. I started seeing some of the Mississippi State DBs start creeping in at the last minute, and so it starts throwing things off. That's where your quarterback's going to have to see things quicker. Again, I think these coaches in the SEC are seeing enough of Tennessee now over the last couple of years. The first year scouting for them, it was like, man, this thing's crazy and it's going everywhere. Now they're more comfortable with it. They're seeing with it. So now you got to start throwing in some additional wrinkles.
Well, and you're also seeing more and more teams in this conference who are running variations. I mean, Jeff Levy runs it.
Sure.
Lane Kiffin runs pieces of it. So, anything to add on the play calling?
I always think, and with Josh Heupel being a former quarterback, I think he's doing things to set other things up, get other keys from the defense. So I think, it might be kind of predictable, but he's also seeing things other teams react differently to attack.
Well, yeah, it works. I just think it's interesting that, again, this was something fans said 4 years ago that we found, and now it seems to be playing out here, where it's not every down, but not every series, but typically first down, throw, second down, run. All right.
Incomplete pass on first, you're going to run on second.
Yes. All right. Dylan Samson carried the ball too much. We've talked about it. We talked about his numbers so far. My question, why no Heisman campaign? Granted, you're not going to win the thing. But you can get him to New York. You can get him in the top 5. Yeah. You can get him into New York. Yeah. As Josh Ward pointed out before the show, it could also help him get SEC Offensive Player of the Year if he's considered for the Heisman.
Absolutely.
It's also a recruiting tool. All right, Sterling, you're over there. Why aren't they doing it?
Well, I have no idea.
Look them right in the eye and criticize them.
I don't know why they're not doing it, but his play absolutely says they should. And not only Tennessee, even the SEC should say something. I watched other networks. They talked about other people in the beginning of the season. This guy should be up for the Heisman. Well, he's fell off. They never mentioned Dylan Sampson.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of it.
Dylan Sampson's body of work in this 2024 season says elite. Give him his flowers. Give him his flowers.
I think I saw something this week that he was number 8 in a poll with absolutely
with
nobody
pushing
him. And if you look at the guys in front of him, I don't think he would win it. But getting to New York, I almost see how if he keeps up last 3 games on the same pace he's at, I don't think he could help but get to New York.
I mean, you've got a couple of other good running backs. They're not doing it in the SEC.
Yeah. No.
You look at this league where it is top to bottom, everybody's beating each other up. It's more NFL guys. It's silly to me. He's not getting pushed.
Shame on like UT not promoting this. They need to get in and promote this thing because you look at what he's done. He's over 1,000 yards. He's scored more touchdowns than anybody ever in the University of Tennessee's history. And also, hey, guess what? He's averaging over 5 yards a carry. Wow. Yeah. And his longest run, they're not like 90-yard runs, 75 yards. He is averaging 5.5 yards, hard yardage. I mean, he is like just a workhorse. And it's really a shame and kind of disappointing that they're not trying to push the guy.
You look back at the stats you put up. It isn't because he had 350 yards against Chattanooga and Kent State. He has been consistent
10 carries
in every
against Chattanooga. That's
game.
it. Yeah.
And it's not like he's got a bunch of All-Americans up front blocking for him.
Well, you saw that last night when when Lewis came in and tried to run it in from the 1-yard line, and your line goes backwards.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's when they're getting their yards. No offense to the offensive line, that's a lot more Samson than it is the O-line.
Absolutely.
My issue too is here's a guy we talked about last week. He's a team leader. Everyone says he's a great player. Absolutely. Last night during the ESPN broadcast, they talked about the fact that after the game last week, he specifically mentioned the Gene McKever family because he broke Gene McKever's record. Someone who played there broke the record from 1929. Yeah. The family then sent him an email thanking the son of Gene McKever, still alive, sent him an email, said, thank you, we're proud of you, have a good career. The announcers last night said that Samson then brought that to them to show them how nice the McKevers are to have done. That's the kind of kid you want to promote. That's the ambassador you want in New York. That's also a chance for you to say, hey, we're not just quarterbacks and receivers here. It makes no sense not to promote it.
And I also want to put pressure on the SEC network as a network because he's doing this in the SEC.
Well, true, but it starts at Tennessee.
This man is doing it in a conference when every team could potentially be in a bowl game this year.
Well, and they're all
every single team.
Well, and they're all loaded with NFL talent.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
That should be. I had someone tell me that they thought, well, it may be because they got burned with Peyton Manning, and they felt they ran a bad campaign or did too much or did too little. That was a quarter century ago. How about we give it another shot? And I don't think you're going to win. I don't care about winning. It's a pat on the back for him. And it's also a recruiting tool. Absolutely. And UT, their marketing department's as good as any school in the country. Yes. If they started it even now, I think it'd look beautiful. I think they could do a great job with it. I just don't understand why they're not.
Well, and he is in distance of breaking the SEC record. Wow. I mean, he might not get it with just 3
Who was that?
Derrick Henry.
Did he win the Heisman?
Yeah. He's a pretty good player.
Yeah. That's right.
All right. When we come back, what's happened to Tennessee's run defense? We'll show you the numbers of the Vols starting to miss Keenan Peely. Is it something else? Is it something Georgia's going to pay attention to? Come on back. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Year-round, the best pest control company in East Tennessee, and I mean all over East Tennessee. It's Southeast Termite and Pest Control. I'm speaking from my own experience because I use them. The Haynes family has taken it seriously since they opened their doors in 1971. And they are the ones to call to protect your property. Southeast Termite and Pest Control. All right, let's take a look at the poll question, see what you've done with it, so where you've got it. It was a tie just seconds ago, but now, yes, if Nico plays, has moved into the lead in front of, not after Georgia lost. Those were tied at 38% just a couple of seconds ago, right before we came back. Yes, UT is better is next, and then last, no, Georgia is better. Click it. Play it. Tell us what you think. I want to see those things keep moving. So which is it? You think they'll win if Nico plays, or you think they'll lose because Georgia lost last week? All right. Let's ask these guys what's happened to the run defense. And we have a graphic here. Tennessee, and this is just about against Power 5 foes. I took out the crap, Chattanooga and Kent State nonsense. But there you got 1.4 yards is all they allowed per carry against NC State, 1.1 against Oklahoma. 3 against Arkansas, 3 against Florida, down to 2 against Alabama, and then the last 2 weeks against 2 of the bottom teams in the league, you're giving up 4.5 yards per carry. Will Overstreet, is this a product of Keenan Peely being out? I'm sure part of it is, but is it that, or is it something larger?
So there's a couple things. I think Peely is being missed by this team, but I also seen what Kentucky and Mississippi State are doing with that new group of linebackers in, which is you'll notice in the Kentucky game, they made them change the assignment of the strength call several times by motioning whole sets of guys over to the other side of the ball. You would notice our team getting a little bit out of balance a couple of times. And then you're also seeing a lot more guard pulling motions, jet sweep kind of motions. All of that is to attract the linebackers' eyes and get them flowing one direction, and they're coming back the opposite direction. And we're not fitting very well at times, especially in that inside A gap area, which is where you see a lot of the success that Kentucky and Mississippi State have had, is they've really been attacking kind of that in between the guards and the center area is where they've hit a couple of big plays. And it's really not started directly downhill a lot of times and gone that place. It's been, how do we kind of look like an RPO, and then we're coming back this way.
A little eye candy first.
How do I pull a guard? And, the other day, Arian Carter was looking for a screen out here. They sent a guy out there, got him going, ran it right back up in the inside. So that's what they're really attacking right now, is saying, I've got a fast-flowing linebackers that want to get to the ball, so we're going to give them something to go get, and then we're going to come back to the inside. So you got that. The defensive tackles, you've seen them get beat a little bit too, though. Mississippi State's guard and center had a couple of really good blocks where it didn't seem like we were getting off. I don't know if that's just late in the season or if those are just bad plays and you didn't have the linebacker to cover it up. But you see that group attacking us very differently in some ways now that we don't have Peely on the field to kind of general through that. They're using that, our aggression against us.
Yeah. Thoughts?
Yeah, my question, and I don't remember because I've been around a microwave too many times in the last couple of weeks, but I think the last two games against Kentucky and Mississippi State, we saw two safeties, like deep safeties. So that creates a bit of a bubble. And again, I don't know if it's linebackers adjusting or what have you, but you got the two safeties, then you got five in the box. And if I'm Tennessee's rules, and same situation against Mississippi State, five in the box, you run the ball. And so there's where the gaps were and the kind of gashes that got them. So I don't know if they're adjusting well or they're just trying to say, hey, we're going to bend but don't break with two deep safeties, not let any big play happen, and just think that we can handle it. They're going to have to change it up against Georgia because I think Georgia's going to come out and say, we're going to try and run the ball, especially after last week, and I don't know how they're going to adjust.
Josh, let's end it with there. How concerned are you with Georgia being able to pick some of this stuff up and use it when Georgia has not been able to run the ball this year? They had, 59 runs on 59 yards on 33 carries against Ole Miss, 1.8 yards a carry or something. They're bottom of the league or near the bottom of the league in terms of rush yards all year. Does it concern you that Georgia may learn a little something from this? Because it's not like Mississippi State and Kentucky are loaded with talent.
Right, and Georgia could not protect Beck in the passing game. They're going to come in and say, how can we run the football like Mississippi State and Kentucky have the last couple of weeks? I looked at those numbers that you shared at the start of the segment, and I thought, okay, well, Florida and Alabama, they didn't have great success right after Keenan Peely went out. Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby as an offensive coach was probably able to see, just like Kentucky was able to see, what did they do or what was Tennessee doing defensively that we can attack. Georgia's offensive staff is going to look at the last couple of games. How did Mississippi State and Kentucky run against Tennessee? What can we do? They have some talent in the backfield. If they can find a way to block for those guys can spring runs like we've seen the last 2 weeks. Tennessee, on the flip side, we'll try to figure out what have they been doing. How can we fix this ahead of the Georgia game?
Okay, very good. We got to catch a break. I want to get into the playoff race. We want to get into a preview of Georgia. We've got a lot more to come. Next, though, let's dig into the playoff resumes. Who won, who lost yesterday. Somebody's already got a projection for what the final bracket will be that changed with what happened yesterday. We'll show you what it meant for Tennessee's projection. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Since 1976, there's not been a better place to buy a boat in all of East Tennessee. Matter of fact, from Georgia to North Carolina to Nashville, Madisonville Marine offers more different makes and models of boats, more rebates and deals, and more great customer service than any other boat dealer in the world, I'm telling you. There's a reason that people in California and Florida go to madmarine.com, buy their boat online, and have it shipped to them. That tells you you're going to get a better deal in Madisonville than you will anywhere in the 50 states. Madisonville Marine. All right, let's talk playoff. Let's take a look at the top 20 playoff team results. Now, these are the top 20 teams in the actual playoff rankings, so we're not looking at AP or anything anymore. You see some teams lost. Georgia losing to Ole Miss, which I know some Tennessee fans were for that. We told you last week you don't want to pull for that because that's not a help to you that Georgia lost to Ole Miss. Miami loses to Georgia Tech. LSU whipped by Alabama. That's good for you because Alabama's your best win. You need them to keep winning. Iowa State, they've dropped out. They've lost 2 in a row. Pitt's lost 2 in a row, so they're done in the playoff conversation. Let's take a look at the current SEC standings. All right, Tennessee way up at their top, at the top of this thing, 8-1 overall, 5-1 in the conference, tied with Texas A&M, 5-1. Texas, the only other team with 1 loss in the conference. If you can get past Georgia, you are staring Atlanta right in the face, and you're also locked into a playoff spot for the most part. Now, there are some gray lines there. It doesn't show up great on this monitor, but to show you the teams you've played, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Mississippi State. Alabama and Arkansas are the only 2 with winning records there. You've played 4 of the 5 worst teams in the conference. That's not helping your schedule. Arkansas is in red because that's a team you played, and you lost to them. Let's take a look at the SEC playoff contender resumes. This kind of gets into what I was talking about. Tennessee 8-1 overall. They're 1-0 versus ranked opponents, and they've only beaten 2 teams with winning records. Okay. Now we all say that all these teams play bad teams. Yeah, well you picked 2 of the worst bad teams in the country. That's why Kent State's never going to have a winning record. Chattanooga is an FCS team. UTEP's never going to have a winning record. Colorado State does. Louisiana Monroe does, Georgia Southern does, Bowling Green does, Western Kentucky does, Buffalo does. That's what you see over there on the right. You have played fewer teams, you've beaten fewer teams with winning records than anybody else in the conference except Georgia, and their 2 were against Clemson and Texas, which is better than Arkansas and Alabama. Well, I'm sorry, that Arkansas is a team you played. You didn't beat them, so that's not even right. There's 1. So my apologies. That's what happens when you build a graphic at 4 a.m. So it's 1 with Alabama. In terms of Alabama, they've beaten 6 teams with winning records. So when you get into the playoff race, remember that's something they mentioned about Tennessee this past week. Well, they were 4-1 against teams with winning records. They lost a couple of those teams because they lost this week, so they're back to 500 or worse. All right, take a look at the current playoff bracket. This was the week 1 bracket. And Tennessee was the 8th seed. I'm sorry, they were the 8th seed, and it meant Indiana coming here. Okay, now you shake out what happened, and the Athletic, they project forward. Based off what happened today, they got a computer model that tells you what's going to happen. Here's the way they see it shaking out after yesterday when all is said and done. Let's take a look at that one. Tennessee has dropped to 11th. They think they'll wind up 11th, barely in still, but they'll be going to Indiana in their computer model. So it was not a great day for Tennessee yesterday on all those fronts. Josh, thoughts? You said last week, and the Ole Miss thing, let's start there because you brought it up last week. If Ole Miss beats Georgia and you lose to Georgia, you'll have lost to two teams. They've beaten both of them.
Yeah, and Ole Miss beating up on Georgia if you lose to them, and that's before we throw in the Nico question, because if there's a question about Tennessee's quarterback position, and Ole Miss looks really good at quarterback and their offense looks really good as Tennessee's defense is, and that should help Tennessee. The committee, I think anybody, they're going to look at the quarterback position and how you feel. So Ole Miss beating Georgia does not help. I still think Tennessee's in a good position to get in if it can play a competitive game against Georgia. But yeah, it's probably traveling in the first round. The Bama dynamic is going to be really interesting. If you're battling Bama for a spot, Tennessee obviously has the head-to-head position. Tennessee fans are well aware of how the ranking ended 2 years ago when Tennessee had the head-to-head victory. Now, Hendon Hooker was not with Tennessee at that time. It was only a 14 playoff. But Bama's resume is really good. Head-to-head is the advantage to Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, you get Alabama on your list, and they have 6 teams that they've beaten with.
Yeah, I think it's tough. Now, if I'm Tennessee and you control your own destiny, you win and you're in, like period, right? You're playing for an SEC title. Even if you lose the SEC title, you're in. Right?
Yeah, worst case winning next week, they're hosting in the first round.
Yeah, worst case scenario. I think also though, if that were to hold true of what you projected right there, I'll take an away game at Indiana all day long. You got 50,000 people. You've got a team that has won every game, but hasn't been really impressive. I'll line up against Indiana all day long, and I know I will beat them. So I'd take that. But again, as a player, you control your own
That's what
destiny.
their previous 10 opponents said.
Well, yeah, they didn't look great against Michigan. They really, again, have they? We'll see what they do against Ohio State.
Bigger concern, who knows who they're going to play at this?
Right.
That's a projection from weeks out based on a computer model. But I don't think you're going to see a hit this week in the rankings. I think you're going to be fine. Where that Ole Miss thing hurts you is if you lose to Georgia. That is going to hurt you. And also, if you beat Georgia, it's not going to have the same weight as it would have if they'd gone to Ole Miss and won. Then that would have made that Georgia one. That's kind of damaging long term, not short term. Again, I expect you to look pretty good when the things come out, tomorrow or Tuesday? But down the road, it could bite you.
Well, it could. And the thing about Tennessee, when we saw the rankings the other day that factored in strength of schedule, it was strength of schedule to that point. Mm-hmm. So then you're going to have to add UTEP.
Yeah.
So that's going to hurt you with your strength of schedule.
Missouri coming back and beating Oklahoma didn't help you.
Yeah. So there's so many elements to this.
Yeah.
There's so many tentacles out there about what could go on with this. Yeah. I do think Tennessee, obviously, if they beat Georgia, no questions.
Yeah.
If they're 10-2 and they play Georgia close game, I think they're in good position. But you've also put yourself in a debate about if there are multiple 10-2 teams out there, how does your resume stack up against them? I don't know all the 10-2 teams yet, but your resume, your strength of schedule could end up hurting.
Yeah, as we showed there, just against the SEC teams that are combined with you. I mean, everybody has more wins against winning teams than you do. All those other Texas, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Georgia, Alabama, Missouri, they all do.
Yeah, NC State didn't do us any favors. They sucked at the beginning and they were overranked, and that hurt us.
Maybe
when you scheduled them a couple years ago, you're like, okay, that's a pretty good game. Now it's like,
no,
they weren't that bad.
They're an 8-4 kind of program.
Well, but now they're not even an 8-4. They're awful.
I just know Alabama went to Wisconsin and won.
Yeah,
that's going to look better.
That was an impressive win.
Yep. And Georgia beat Clemson. LSU lost, but they did play USC. But that's all right. Kent State was fun. All right. When we come back, the Vols head to Georgia. Let the previewing begin. We'll preview Vols Dogs next. Come on back. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Daniel Hood Roofing. Winter's coming. That means wind. That means rain. Folks, make sure your home is ready for it. Your roof is ready for it. Call Daniel Hood Roofing. Have them come out and do a free inspection. There's no obligation. If it's fine, they'll tell you. If it needs to be replaced, they'll tell you. If it just needs a repair or a refresh, they'll tell you that too. DanielHoodRoofing.com to learn more. All right, let's take a look at the poll results. What are our final? Okay, yep, Tennessee's going to win if Nico plays. That's the winner in our poll question today. Runner-up, no, you're not going to win, not after Georgia lost last week. Then you got, yes, UT is better, came in third. And fourth, people saying Georgia is better than Tennessee. Ha! Okay, here's my question. Gentlemen, Vols are expected to have Nico Iamaleava if you listen to Josh Heupel. If it's a concussion, I don't know. If it's something with the shoulder, who knows? But he says he expects him. What else is he going to say? You don't know about Dante Thornton at this point. Meanwhile, Georgia had 3 more turnovers. That's 11 in their last 4 games. 9 of those have been Carson Beck interceptions. They can't run the ball, as we said earlier. Jimmy, what are you thinking? Take all that into account. What are you thinking as the Vols head to Athens?
I'm thinking Georgia's very vulnerable. I think Carson Beck is not nearly the quarterback he was a year ago. I think part of it is because he doesn't have Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. They have not done a really good job recruiting wide receivers. The best receiver maybe in the last 7 or 8 years they got was Pickens. He's really good in the NFL. But they don't have a receiver that scares you. Their tight ends are okay. So I think that's impacted him. He's also thrown into coverage a lot. He did that like 5 times against Florida, and he's lucky he only had 3 interceptions.
And while their defense is good, it's not the monsters of the midway good that you saw earlier in the year.
Defense.
Over
her defense.
They have some
Ole
good,
Miss that you saw yesterday.
But they don't have like the Jalen Carters or some of these first round guys that now the Williams kid's really good. Okay. But they don't stockpile them like they used to. They also don't run the ball all that well either. You mentioned the Ole Miss numbers earlier.
They're bottom of the league overall.
Yeah, so I think Tennessee's got a great chance to win.
Let me ask you this one and get your takes here. Let's say Nico plays. We all feeling pretty good about this trip or no?
I still
Rain
feel.
cloud?
Of course.
You can hear it blowing in.
Look at this. I still home versus away.
That was my umbrella.
I understood.
That would be a bit coming up, by the way, when we all pull out. All right.
It's home versus away. I mean, our offense is different. We have not shown
Right.
in the past couple of years being able to go on the road and run the same kind of offense. You've also had this year offense that's inconsistent, sputtering, even with Nico. So your big struggle in this game going against Georgia is how many points am I going to get? Do I think our defense can hold this Georgia team to a certain number of points? Yes. I mean, I think that's why you're saying you're still in this game. And guess what? You're still in this game if Nico doesn't play, in my mind, because of your defense and because of what you need to score to actually win this game. It's not in the 30s. I think this is the kind of game, if you get to 24, 21, somewhere in there, I think you have a chance against this Georgia team. And that's why, you can, but I also go, is our offense on the road good enough to get that number of points? And that's where I'm like, I don't know.
One of the reasons they've struggled on the road is because they've been such a tempo-based offense, which
They
really aren't that big. Maybe that won't hurt them as much. Go ahead, Bob. Any thoughts on this game?
The one thing that concerns me, and it's psychological, does this focus Georgia? Because if you lose, you're done.
You're done.
No SEC championship game, no playoff, everything is done. So you're catching them either in a good time, because they haven't looked good at all, especially their offense, I think, or is this the kind of thing that this week, okay, everybody's paying attention, everybody's going to be doing the right thing because you know that this knocks you out and you're just going to be an also-ran team for the year.
You're now a wounded animal, backed into a
back
corner,
in the
and every other cliche you can come up with.
Yeah, I agree 100% because if you look at it's a night game on the road, Georgia's backed into a corner. This could be the signature win for Josh Heupel. This is the one that okay, he's finally breaking out on the road, right? Not at home, but on the road. Because you look at our road win, which is a big one. I guess LSU won
But that was
during the middle of the day, and we got
game.
out quick, and LSU ended up not being that good that year. I think this is a tough challenge for Tennessee. I say whichever offensive line plays better is the team that's going to win because Georgia's offensive line is not that good. Tennessee's offensive line is, believe it or not, I'm saying this, they're playing better. So now they are playing better. But here's the whole thing. It's I think it's going to come down to those front five and what they do. I just don't like it. It's at Georgia, at night. We don't play well on the road.
All right. Very good, gentlemen. When we come back, Josh Heupel and the Vols have already accomplished a lot. They're kind of setting records at this point, making history. We'll show you what that is. But I want to know, all right, let's say you don't win at Georgia and you don't make the playoff. Is this still a good season? After all, you're 8-1. You're leading the SEC deep in the season. If you just miss out on the playoff by one, is it still a good season? We'll discuss. The VFLs will talk about that one next. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Safety Systems. Christmas shopping season is here, and that means packages being delivered. Is your home secure? Do you have eyes on your porch, your patio, your doors? Fend off the porch pirates with Safety Systems. Call VFL JJ Surlis. Have Safety Systems figure out the perfect security system for your home. Do it before you regret not doing it. SafetySystems.com. Okay. Tennessee is 8-1 on the year. They lead the SEC as we're now in the second, third week of November. They have the longest win streak in the SEC at 4 games, which says something about how tough this league is. But you have the longest win streak on top of everything else. And let me show you this. This is the interesting thing. Last night they achieved their 8th win of the season. So this is 8 wins in a season for 3 straight years. Doesn't sound like much, but it's only the 3rd such streak at Tennessee in 50 years. Now, they did it from 65 to 73 under Dickey and Battle. They did it from 89 to 2004. But it hadn't happened often, and it's been 20 years since they've won 8 games or more in 3 straight years. Coaches who've done it, Robert Nealon, Doug Dickey, Bill Battle, John Majors, Philip Fulmer, and now Josh Heupel. The last time Tennessee won at least 35 wins in a 4-year stretch. Again, go back 20 years, 2001 to 2004. They're breaking down barriers. They're doing things we haven't seen in a long time at Tennessee. Again, they're leading the SEC right now. It all sounds good. So my question for my VFLs, and I'm going to throw it over to Will Overstreet to handle this segment. If they lose to Georgia and they don't make the playoff, is this still a good year? Or is it all about that playoff? Will? Take it away.
Well, John, this is a rain cloud. I'd say fire them all, right? No. But let's ask you this. Stoll, is 10-2 not making the playoff a good season?
It's a good year, yes. I would. Anytime you get 10 wins, that's a good year. Is it a great year? No, because you're not in the playoffs, and you could have an opportunity playing in or participating in one of the first time that's ever come out. So I think that's a good year. 10 wins. Is it a great year? You get in the playoffs. I say it's a great year. If you're 10-2 and you're in the playoffs, that's a great year, even if you lose.
I say good. I say good.
I wouldn't have thought that, but maybe shocker.
I say good because anytime you get 10 wins, brother, in college football, that's good. Yeah. Now, piggyback what Mike just said, you want to make the playoffs. You want to win championships. That's why we play. So, of course, you want to do better, but there's nothing wrong with 10 wins.
And that's kind of the amazing part that I'm interested in. And it won't happen this year because the playoffs are new. But, where usually you go 10-2, everybody's going to say that's a great year. Pretty much a given. You had a good year, maybe not where you wanted to reach. But does all of a sudden, because now when you start to have a playoff, it's like, well, it doesn't matter. All of a sudden the new definition of good, great, and all that stuff starts changing to say, did you make the playoffs or not? And that becomes the cutoff line.
I think, too, at the end of the season, if we don't make it in, but those 12 teams do, and then how does the SEC fare in that playoffs? If they do really well, then it's like, well, hey, we were just the last guy out, but all these other people that were in there got blown out by SEC teams. In my mind, maybe that is a great year. Maybe that is a great year, that the fact that you got in there or didn't quite get in there, but everybody else that did in the SEC, made it all the way to the final.
Yeah. Which is which is a pretty good scenario that would happen anyway. So. John, I know you had some other questions you want to talk about.
Question which kind of goes back to what you guys are just talking about. You say 10 wins is a great year, and I agree. 10 wins is a good year. I'm not, you never sit there and spit at 10 wins. However, does it take off a little bit that you have played? You got no control over it, but you've played four of your wins have come against 5 of the worst teams in the SEC. You got 4 wins that are at the bottom of the SEC right now. Now you helped put them down there with your win, but you haven't played a great conference schedule. You got a win versus one winning team. Your non-conference was an absolute joke. Does that count off at all, or do you still say, nope, you play who you play?
Well, not this year. Not this year. We beat Florida and Alabama at home. Think about that. When's the last time that's happened? That's awesome.
2022, 2 years ago.
Well there it is. And as we talk about 2022, we always talk about how good of a year that was.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying. The shine is there. Don't take the shine off when it's there.
I think you also have to just think about it this way. What John started with was where we have been in the valley of death that we were. To be where we are right now, I think you just have to say, listen, I got to be happy with 10-2. I could be a little disappointed, but at the end of the day, Derek Dooley, Butch Jones, we can go on. That's where we were. So to be here, to be talking on a show like this, and Sterl not to be totally out of the race of betting money on the sports anymore, this is a good place to be. So I just have to say that this is a good situation. And even if you don't reach the mountaintop this year, at least you're hitting at it to say maybe we can get there next year.
The clouds have lifted.
Literally, right there. All right, good job, fellas. When we come back, we will preview Tennessee, Georgia, using our favorite game, will they or won't they? And we got some good questions this week, some interesting questions. Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things. Going on right now, it's Games and Things' 44th anniversary sale. 44 years, folks. That's all about quality items, friendly service, and repeat business. Right now, everything in their store is discounted, some items up to 50% off. Visit them now before Christmas. Games and Things, their 44th anniversary sale. Get down there. See Scott and Lisa Mellon, two of my favorite people. Been a big-time supporter of the Sports Source for a long time. OurGameRoom.com if you can't make it. But I'm telling you, up to 50% off on everything. All right, it's time for Will They or Won't They. I need to make this somehow focus on will, since it's will they or won't they. But over there, we have our VFLs, Will Overstreet, Sterling Hinton, Mike Stoll, and then, of course, I'm joined by Josh Ward and Jimmy Himes right here. Time for 4 questions on Tennessee, Georgia. I think we got some good ones this week, which means they'll bomb horribly. First one. Dylan Samson has had 3 first-quarter fumbles in his last 3 games. Carson Beck has had 4 first-quarter interceptions in his last 4 games. Will Dylan Samson turn the ball over before Carson Beck? No. They all think Carson Beck's going to turn it over before Dylan Samson. All right, we'll go back and forth with you guys. Josh, will Dylan Samson turn it over before Beck, or will Beck turn it over before Samson?
Well, to not join the jinx train, I'm going to say Dylan's turning it over before Carson for sure.
So it's the anti-jinx.
Yeah, the oppo jinx.
Okay, oppo jinx. Very good.
Beck will turn it over because he's got 2 chances, interception or fumble.
There you go. All right, here we go. You done math. All right, next one. Georgia had scored at least 30 points in 5 straight SEC games before yesterday and Ole Miss. So they had 30 points in 5 straight SEC games. Tennessee hasn't allowed a team to score 20 points on them all season. Will the Bulldogs score at least 24 against the Vols? I don't make them easy. Oh boy, he can't decide. Okay, we got one. Of course, Rain Cloud says, yeah, they'll score 24. Tell me why.
Man, I don't know who's going to play quarterback on our team at this point in that game. I don't know if we're going to give up cheap points on offense, turning the ball over. I mean, I think our defense is able to hold Georgia to that under 20 points. But I just look at special teams and turnovers on offense. Are we going to give up something cheap? So that's why I say there's a possibility.
You're on the road. You're on the road trying to hold. So 24 is not an insane number. It's crazy that you've never given up 20 this year. So I would say, yes, they'll get 24. What will you say, Jimmy?
I'm going to go under just because I think Carson Beck's in a slump, not playing very well.
Josh?
Yeah, it's incredible that you can ask that question.
Yeah, I know.
That's a huge compliment to the defense. I would actually take under on that number. I think I'd probably go under on whatever number you give me on each team and what they'll score.
6 for Georgia. Max Gilbert kicked 4 field goals yesterday, Mike Stoll. I know how much you love kickers. Tennessee scored 3 touchdowns. So 4 field goals, 3 touchdowns. They're going on the road to Georgia. Will Tennessee have more touchdowns or field goals on offense in Athens? The question is, Tennessee will have. I'm sorry, that's my fault. Tennessee will have more touchdowns than field goals on offense. Yes. Okay, again. All right, let the positive guys tell me why you think you're going to score a bunch of touchdowns on the road at Georgia and you don't even know who your quarterback is.
Well, we still got the same offense. And the guys been practicing all year. And I like the way Dylan Sampson's performing. He's got a nose for that end zone, and he's going to get there.
Okay. I think if Tennessee's going to win the game, they're going to have to get in the end zone. Even if it's 4th and short and it's a chip shot field goal, I think you got to go for the touchdowns.
Okay, they say they'll score more touchdowns than field goals.
I'm leaning toward the field goals.
Okay.
I think Tennessee, with the uncertainty with their offense, and also they've not been great in the red zone either.
No.
So I'm going to go more field goals.
Okay.
Push?
No pushes.
I'll say more touchdowns.
Okay.
Dylan Sampson is a good answer to that question. That's a good start by Sterling.
So these are fun questions today. I think these are pretty good. Here's one I really like. This is bizarro. This is the way I waste my night. Tennessee has not scored a third-quarter touchdown versus Georgia since 2018. That's 5 straight games where they've been shut out in the third quarter by Georgia. So yay or nay, the Vols will score a third-quarter touchdown on Saturday night. All yeses from the Happy Joy crew. All right.
Oh, I get the credit now.
Yeah.
I've been negative the whole time. Answer 1.
All right, Rain Cloud, I'll let you be positive. Explain why.
Look, the third quarter this year, we haven't been good in the first half. The second half, coming out of the locker room with adjustments, we have been good. So if I just say stick with the trend that you've been seeing, that's most likely going to be the best opportunity for us to score, and says that we would have a score touchdown in that third quarter.
Josh, we talked about it on the Saturday kickoff this week. Third quarter is when Dylan Sampson has most of his yards and most of his touchdowns. Does that continue? Do you think they get on the board in Georgia with Dylan Sampson?
Yeah, this is a different kind of team. So what we've seen in the past doesn't apply to this year's team. I gave Dylan the first half fumble or turnover, so I'll give him the third quarter touchdown as well.
Jimmy, did they get a touchdown in the third quarter?
I think so. And what might happen is even if Nico doesn't start, he'll come in the third quarter and rally the troops.
There you go.
Like Condredge
Like
Holloway.
Condredge against
there we
UCLA.
go. So got to figure it out.
All right. Very good, everyone. When we come back, Chuck has sent us the Cavaliers line. We'll make our predictions for Tennessee, Georgia. We'll tell you who's leading and who's trailing and who's dead in the Beat the House segment. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Paper Be Gone. I ordered this package. A day later, I got a text from I ordered a package. A day later, I got a text from the U.S. Postal Service asking me for an updated address and cash in order to deliver the package. Obviously, that was a scam. Well, that's how many scumbags you have in this world. Now they're monitoring to see when you order a package, they then say, hey, we're the Postal Service delivering that package. Folks, keep the scumbags out. Use Paper Be Gone. Don't let somebody get a hold of your records, your transactions, your history, your bank account records, all that stuff. Paper Be Gone can destroy all of that all those documents for you, and they do it in an environmentally friendly, safe way. Nobody does a better job of protecting your information, your identity, and more than Paper Be Gone. PaperBeGone.com to learn more. All right, Chuck couldn't be with us today, but he did send his line. Let's take a look at the standings. Nope, let's take a look at the standings. We had it there. There, see it again. The tombstone has gotten bigger because, sorry, Will and Sterling, I think you're doomed too. Daniel got $50 off this past week. $23.50 is where he went. Jimmy, you got $100, so you're up to $1,000. Mike Stoll, you bet $250 last week. You're up to $1,000. Marlon bet $325, so he's up to $850. Sterling, you lost. You bet Tennessee, and they didn't cover, so you're down to $150. Will, you're still alive at $100. Bob Hodge and I both went all in, so we're dead, and Josh has been dead. So Chuck sent in his line, and let me go ahead and reveal it. There we go. This is not the entertaining Chuck delivery, but oh, whoa.
There's going to be a plus there.
Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
Plus 13.5. Oh. There you go. Georgia plus 13.5. Tennessee plus 13.5. Georgia minus 13.5. My apologies. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I talked to Daniel today. So Daniel is $200 on Georgia. $200 on Georgia for Daniel. So those of you who are trying to catch up, keep that in mind. And Jimmy, you're up next.
He's going 200 on Georgia.
Yeah, 25.50 is where you're at 1,000. He can get to 25.50, or if he loses, he would get to 21.50.
See, I got a few more games after that. I'm going to go 500 on Tennessee.
500 on Tennessee for Jimmy Himes. Mike Stoll.
So Jimmy took my ideas. I'm going to go 550 Tennessee.
Can I go next?
501.
I say 600.
501.
I'll ask Marlon later. Sterling, you're still alive. You got 150.
Go 50 on Tennessee, a hard 50, baby.
He's all in, man. Yeah, 50.
Why that bad? Like, you got 150. Like, you ain't going to win.
So why not go
But
all
he's
in
going to
on
he's going to place higher than you.
In the game.
You play to be in the game.
In the game, right
Will
now.
Overstreet, what are you doing? You got $100.
I'm going Tennessee, and I'm taking all my money in and moving all the chips in, so I'll be ahead.
100 on UT. All right. Excellent.
Are you going to go? Oh, you're not in it. Never mind.
No, I'm dead. No, I went out this week. Yeah. Oh, wow. Nice to have you here. How's your hip? All right. Quickly, we got 30 seconds. Just guess at this point. Does Nico play, Josh?
I anticipate that he will.
Play the hypo clip.
I think he'll play, yes.
Do you think he'll play or no?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Rain crowd.
Very good. I don't know. I didn't like the towel over the head, but I'll say he'll play. I thought it was interesting that Heupel came out kind of laughing and giddy at the start of that, which if his quarterback's really banged up, I don't know that he's that ha-ha with everyone, but who knows? Maybe he's just a heck of an actor. Josh, Jimmy, Mike, Sterling, Will, well, everybody but Mike, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Saturday for our Saturday kickoff, next Sunday for the Sports Source right back here. Thank you.